Welcome to the Skull with Subtle Red Candy Flames Part 2 video. You'll notice that we're basically going to use the TrueFire Microvelli Art Tool stencils that we used in the first part of this video. And what I'm doing now is I've got a House of Colour white, base coat white mix, and I'm just running another layer of those flames over the top of what I've done. So as you can see, I'm just switching between the different templates that I like. And just sort of working another layer just to create a bit more depth. So not necessarily following what you've already done. We're just sort of wisping out some flame licks and then utilizing the stencil, but also doing quite a bit of it freehand. So I think that's where a lot of people go wrong with realistic flames. They tend to use the stencils a bit too much. So you want to sort of mix it up a little bit. Now, as with the first video, I'm just knocking all those areas back with a white pearl by De Beers. So this is just mixed sort of 1-to-1, and I'm using my Iwata Revolution. So just using that to sort of fog that in. So I'm only hitting the areas which I've just done in white, so that way they'll shimmer as much as the rest of the areas that have already got the white pearl on them. So just making sure that I get all the areas there. Give it a quick tack rag. So this is just a Gershon clear coating tack rag, the light blue one. Okay, now going back in with my CMC Micron and my thinned out SEM black. I'm just working in a bit more of that detail now since I've put that extra layer of flame on. So I'm actually shading and knocking back some of those flame licks just to create a little bit more depth. So just keep looking at your artwork and knock back, like just wherever you want those flames to go to the background, you just dust over those licks, and then the ones that you want to pop forward, well, those ones you'll leave, so you'll shade around those and that will lift those up. So try and visualize how the flames would run off the skull. Think about the skull as a 3D object, obviously, and how the flame lick would sort of come out, like I've got it coming out of the mouth there and then trailing off, and you want that sort of natural flow. So that just comes with a bit of practice. So you can see here, this is how the completed art should look with that extra layer of flames. So you can see it's got a lot more depth to it. I actually like it in black and white as well, but this was a reference panel done for a customer, so he wanted to go with the red candy, but I think it looks quite effective in the black and white. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to coat that entire artwork that we've done with the House of Colour Candy Apple Red. So you can see here I'm just dusting it on using my Iwata Revolution, so that seems to spray out a fairly heavy amount of paint, which is good for this sort of an application of candy. You want to try and get all your coats fairly even. So candy's a totally transparent colour, so it can go patchy. Generally with artwork like this though, it's pretty safe if you just keep coating it until you're happy with the desired amount of candy, then you're pretty safe, like, to get rid of any of the patchiness or whatnot. So just sort of play around with it. If you're unsure, do a test panel. But you can see how much brighter but also just richer that whole colour is becoming. So it's really starting to pop now. Remember, it is over a white pearl as well, so it's going to have a bit more reflection to it. Very hard to see off the video, but out in sunlight you're going to get a bit of movement and going to be able to look through that candy. So you can do this over any sort of metallic base coat, which is really what candy's great for because it is totally transparent, as mentioned earlier. So just keep coating that until you're absolutely happy with the amount of candy. So I'm just checking that now. Don't worry too much about your overspray, because it tends to blend back into your black. So, but saying that, you still want to try and just focus on the areas, but you don't need to actually mask it up to spray the candy. You can do this freehand as I'm showing you now. A little bit of bleed around the edge doesn't make a difference. It sort of gives it more of the impression of glowing flame anyway. So just as you can see, I'm just working back over that area. It's generally about a 70% overlap. So your first pass and then the next one would be 70% over that. Unlike normal painting, which is more of a 50-50 overlap. So a little bit different with the candy, but again, it's not like painting the side of a car where you have to, it's absolutely crucial to get your overlaps right. This is a lot easier to apply. So I'm just drying with a bit of the air there, so that's why nothing was coming out, just to make sure that I'm happy with it before I apply another coat. So I'm just going a bit heavier there. So again, it also depends on your mix, so how much dye you've put in. So obviously the more the candy dye that you put into your mix, your binder, is going to make a difference to the amount of coats that you need to apply. So that's all done, and now I'm applying 577 binder to seal off the candy before clear coating. That's a De Beers 577, and I've just applied that with my LPH 80 Iwata mini spray gun. So here you can see the completed artwork before clear. So it is hard to see in the photos to really get that depth, and you're not getting the full effect of that pearl. Even in the clear coated pictures it is hard to see, but I can guarantee you the actual panel looks a hell of a lot better than the photos. But it still gives you a fair impression of the finished artwork and how cool it looks. So here you can see the same artwork, just it's totally clear coated now. So this panel hasn't been flow coated, it's just a sample panel, so the clear isn't 100%, but it gives you a good impression. So I hope you enjoyed the video.